It is Relationship Clinic. Thank you so much for tuning in on this lovely Thursday morning. This morning, I'm glad to host Dr. Charles Kimamo, Senior Lecturer, Clinical Development Psychology, Department of Psychology, University of Nairobi. Daktari, it is so good to have you. Karibu sana studio.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the honor to invite me here.
Are you working from home as well?
Yeah, I've been working at home. Yeah, although it's not easy because of the children.
Yes.
They're all over.
Yes.
I sometimes think, should I rent a single room somewhere and to be able to work?
To have a office
Yes.
on the side to work from. This scenario has presented very interesting dynamics for some marriages.
Yeah.
And that's the discussion I want us to get into.
Yeah.
Because what's happened is that over the last couple of weeks, I've realized quite a number of messages for prayer concerning marriages.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like people are realizing they were so used to waking up, leaving the house, going to work, coming home in the evening, having a bit of a chit-chat, going to bed, and then we do it again tomorrow.
Yeah.
But now you're stuck in the house the whole week.
Yes.
And you're wondering, what do people talk about when they have this much time in their hands? And so how can we begin to develop our communication and even enhance our friendship in marriages in this season?
First of all, let me say hello to all viewers.
Yes.
And then say that it's true that we are in a very abnormal situation.
Yes.
Because we have never been this way before.
Yeah.
In fact, the other day I asked a friend, who would have said things would have gone this way?
Surely.
So one of the things that amazes me, I remember one of my lecturers in a course teaching a theory
Yes.
that is called family psychotheory, that was developed by a lady. The lady talks of the obvious, but then that theory struck me. It is obvious, but it is like families are always in different stages.
Okay.
There is a stage of beginners when they are newly wedded, and they have to learn to adjust now.
Yes.
And after the stage of, you'd guess that the next stage is the childbearing stage, where now people start preparing for a newborn in the family. And after that, you'll have the families with preschoolers, very, very young children. And then we have families of children of school-going age, maybe about 6 to about 12 years.
Yes.
Then after that, we have families with teenagers. Then after the teenagers, we have the phase of launching, where children are now going away.
Yes.
This stage is marked by the first to the last child going away.
Yes.
And then we are left with the middle age, where we call it sometimes an empty nest.
Yes, empty nest. Yeah.
Yes. Then after the empty nest, of course, there is the aging bit, where people now are preoccupied with death, what will happen if I'm left alone and all that. When COVID came, it seems to have disorganized that very neat pattern. Very neat pattern.
Yes,
a very neat pattern. Because you are forced to an empty nest when you are not supposed to be in that stage,
Yes.
for example.
Yeah.
At the same time, you've been forced back to the very initial level, the beginners.
Yeah.
Where you were newly married instead of moving on and on. Well, I would say that the outcome of what is happening in the families depends on whether this relationship was deliberate or it was accidental.
Oh.
When you
have relationships that are accidental.
Yes, like you went out for a date and somebody became pregnant, and because you are a gentleman, you just say, okay, well, just come home and all that.
Yes.
That one is not a very genuine relationship, although we know in the Indian culture, people come together and they love each other. So the outcome is 50-50. It may be okay, it may be wrong. But if the relationship was deliberate, then the kind of fights you see are artificial, just because of reversals that are not expected. Everybody is anxious. We actually don't know what next. The working class don't know whether they are going to have salaries next.
Yeah.
People don't know what. The worst is, even when there was no COVID-19, people were still suffering. They were not able to make ends meet because the economy was very harsh.
Yes.
I sometimes wonder, what do people who don't work do?
Yes.
It's shocking.
Yeah.
Yes. So thank you so much.
Wow. So how you've brought in a very interesting angle, because I think when we get to a place of understanding what is happening and what we are going through, then we are able to respond to it deliberately.
Yes.
Because you've talked about people being anxious. And sometimes for us men, when we are anxious and we don't know where the next meal is going to come from, hatutaki kusumbuliwa.
It is
we
true.
just want to keep quiet and lock ourselves in our own cage. And the children are running all over the house, jumping on the sofas, and the wife has so many questions, and that can be explosive. So maybe if you can explain to us what are some of the things people are going through now, because once we begin to understand where we are, then we can know how to chart our way forward.
First of all, is that people have been forced to stay together, and normally there is a very interesting professor of psychiatry who once said that sometimes families become stable because of a triangle.
Okay.
A triangle is there is something else, a third party. Usually, sometimes children. Bowen was thinking about children. Sometimes that because parents may not be talking, but because there is a child, there is a stability of a kind. In this particular case, we can see relationships that can be very bad could also have a triangle in terms of work. But now you've been forced to come together.
Yes.
And may I point out here that in psychology, we know very well that ladies are verbal.
Very.
But men are less verbal.
Yes.
The small secret that there is that, first of all, if this family, if we say this is a family with school attending children, they are very young and there's a lot of noise. So some of the things that can be controlled is like even lower the volume of the radio, the volume of the TV, and I don't know what to do with children, because one great philosopher said that it's natural for children to play and it's foolish not to let them play. Now even the trouble comes because some children will want to go and play outside and the parents don't want them to go out. So the daddy will have to hear all this noise. So the intelligent person here is the partner. They should know, the father should know that, the mother should know that the men are less verbal. So they should reduce the words, and they control the situation to some extent, because if they become part of the jam, I sometimes call the children an earthquake, because they are all over now that they are not going to school. They disrupt the whole house, and then the partner is not understanding, also keeps on talking when the man doesn't want to talk. He's anxious. That's where the conflict is likely to come.
Very true.
Yes.
And the other day we were having a show and talking about the children, and saying it's also a confusing time for them, because they're at home. They can't go outside to play.
Yes.
We want them to do school from the house. They've never done it before.
Yeah.
It's a whole new arena for them also.
Yeah.
And we also need to give them time to in. But let me ask, what does lack of proper communication do to a relationship?
First of all, when you are not communicating well, there is a lot of assumption.
Okay.
When people are not communicating, you say like, he doesn't love me.
Yes.
He's got somebody else.
Yes.
He's disappointed that she or she is disappointed that I'm in the house. There is a lot of assumption. So communication opens up things. I remember very many years back, my professor in the university was called Gumba. By the way, Professor Gumba was a daughter of the famous Gumba.
Okay.
And she told us that when you talk about broad origin of problems, one of the major broad origin of problem is insufficient reinforcement. Means she used the word stroking, the way you do to a cat.
Yeah.
You know, when you stroke a cat and it
Yes.
calms down, it feels nice, closes the eyes,
Yes.
that we all need stroking. So sometimes partners must learn to even appreciate, just to keep the trend going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just stroking to create some reinforcement. The meal was good, but men have to be trained because they are not so verbal.
Yes.
But you're supposed to appreciate. We have to learn to do that. To appreciate the meal, to appreciate the way the opposite partner looks, you know.
Yeah.
So it's very important at this particular time even to appreciate, to keep the relationship going, so that we know that even though we are having this COVID situation,
Yeah.
we still appreciate each other.
Very true.
You know, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to have you around me, you know, that appreciation. So let's come back to what Professor Gumba taught me.
That's good.
That relationships sometimes break because of insufficient reinforcement, because of insufficient stroking.
Wow.
Look at the cat.
Yes.
I've never forgotten that.
The
You
cat,
you
yes.
can imagine those are many years back, many.
Yes.
But I've never forgotten. That was my counseling lecturer. And she would say the stroking.
Yes.
So if we don't have stroking in the house, there is assumption that he doesn't appreciate me, she doesn't appreciate me, she's disappointed about me. So we've got to bring the stroking back.
Yeah.
And I said earlier that if relationships are deliberate, there is this thing that brought you together. You know, there was all this dating, there was the thrill when you got this person.
Yes.
And I have, Brother James, I've learned to, I've seen that severally, that kind of relationship is rekindled
Yes.
when people go out. You go to Mombasa. Then that you now start seeing the little girl that you had those many ages
Very true.
back. And that's why many psychologists recommend outings for a couple that is having problems.
Okay.
It is likely to bring them back
Yes.
on course.
Okay. Even though right now we can't go for outing.
Now,
You talked about men. Men speak very little. And I was thinking about this the other day, that for us men, a lot of times when we are having these deep-heated conversations, it's usually about politics or sports. Now, right now, politics is not happening.
it's interesting, yeah.
And sports are not happening.
Although they are forcing politics.
They're trying to force
I've
politics
seen you
back.
read
Yes.
that.
So there's no politics to talk about. There's no sports for us to gather around and talk about.
Yeah.
And I think it's a very interesting scenario for us men. And we need to get to a place where we find out what else do we talk about, especially in our homes, with our wives, with our children. Is this a good time to start talking about, where we are going as a family, our future plans we can start putting in place, or what other things can people talk about?
That's an interesting question. And a tough one, I must appreciate.
Yes.
Because there is that gap now, because you don't have sports to talk about.
Yeah.
Well, I know that people can have romantic movies, although again some men may not want to sit down and watch, but romantic movies may do.
Yes.
I saw the other day a politician trying to coach his children on rapping. You saw that on telly?
No, I didn't see that one.
Yes. And was it Sakaja? It could be
okay.
Sakaja, like in the
Sakaja
house.
He used to sing.
Oh, if he used to sing, he's
Yes,
the
he was
one.
a musician, yeah, he was,
So the children are rapping and there's a lot of fun.
Uh-huh.
So this particular gap here can be utilized in various ways. We can rediscover our talents. Some people are singers.
Yes.
Yeah, those old days.
Yes.
Some people are good cooks.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I have a friend in America
Yeah.
called Waigwa who loved cooking. So
Yes.
maybe now that he's in the house,
Very true.
he could now, because he's always busy in the hospital,
Yeah.
now he can use that particular time to cook and do other things. So we also have indoor sports.
Yes.
People can play cards.
Board games.
Yes.
Yes.
And then at night, there's usually a big space at night. so people can go out and play at night as a family.
Yes.
There are very interesting games that people could play.
Mm-hmm.
I remember introducing my family to one game we used to play when we have a circle, and people divide into two groups, and you run around, and others chase you. When they touch you, you stop there. But a member of your group can come and touch you to undo, to release you.
Yes.
But if all of you are touched outside the circle, if one wants to rest, they can run back to the circle. So families can have some fun even in the night, when there's no congestion, and assuming that you are not in some estates that have no space, so we are assuming that you have some space somewhere to go and play.
Great. Do you have any questions for us this morning? 20316 is the SMS line. WhatsApp number 0786 316 316. Maybe you can tell us, are you having challenges where communication is concerned in your marriage in this season? Or maybe you have some creative things that you have employed and are doing that are enhancing communication and helping you to get along in this season. We would also love to hear from you. 20316 SMS line, WhatsApp number 0786 316 316. It is the Relationship Clinic. Communication in marriage in this season is what we are looking at. In studio with me, Dr. Charles Kimamo, Senior Lecturer, Clinical Developmental Psychology, Department of Psychology, University of Nairobi. We are asking for your thoughts and your questions. Are you having challenges communicating in this season because everybody is at home, no one is leaving the house? Or maybe you have some creative things you're doing together as a family in this season that can be able to help other families as well. Liz Wamboi, always a blessing to hear from you. You say, I do agree with you that communication is the greatest key in any relationship, but one way or the other, we have to understand why we came together. Who is the majority fix a relationship through children? I didn't understand that last part, but thank you, Liz, for sending that one in. There's one here, Daktari. Maybe you can say something about this.
Yes.
This is a lady who says their relationship was accidental, like you mentioned when we began.
Yeah.
And she says, we completely do not talk. I tried to bring up the discussion on where we are going as a family, but I was silenced when the burden for budget is ultimately left on me. Even the water and the milk and the bread he has abandoned. We are now on Strungi tea until he meets his only 5,000 monthly budget, while I'm left with the 60,000 monthly budget.
Oh dear.
What would you tell this lady?
Very sad.
Very sad. Yeah.
Very sad indeed. But I remember mentioning that among the Asian communities, people just come randomly. They don't know each other. And then they learn to coexist. We also had that in some traditional communities. You don't know each other, but you learn each other slowly. But I need to point out here, as a Christian, that whenever I'm teaching counseling, I don't forget to say that, at least for the African context, and the Bible supports that. Somebody has talked about who is the majority fix. I like that. We have to learn that in our culture, submission is a key word. I've listened to people who said, I was submissive to my husband, then he took advantage, got somebody else, but I really doubt there must be another underlying factor. The language that men understand, perhaps that's why even our African women are very popular abroad, because sometimes I've had several pastors go with their wives abroad, and when they go there, then she's taken away, she's snatched. Perhaps it is that submission concept. It is backed by the Bible. In fact, one scholar called Rierop in 1999 observed that half of the non-Christian marriages in America broke down, but the Christian marriages succeeded. And I asked, he never explained more from the study, but I went back, reflected, and thought that the Christian marriages, or the Christian marriage, is stable because of this submission concept.
Yes.
If any of my student is listening, they will remember that I normally give them an assignment when I'm teaching an adult class, and I say, for the whole of this week, I want you to be submissive. Then next week become yourself and come back and report when you enjoyed most.
Yes.
And many of them actually say that when they are submissive, the man, it's like when you look at Paul's writing, twice he has talked about women be submissive, husbands love, twice in different books. And when you look at First Peter, which I have here, it starts the same way. Wives, in the same way, be submissive to your husbands. This is a secret that many homes are losing. Submission is a very important concept. It's like the language. You know, men are not verbal. I kept on saying that. And they play their game during courtship. They play their game and play it very well.
Yes.
And then they even take dowry in some cases, assuming that it was an ideal case. I saw a song recently by a pop musician who died recently called John DeMatthew. And he was saying, I'm going to take 99. The last song he sang was saying, I'm going to take 99 sheep to your family because of the way I appreciate you. Formerly, when I was going home, I think he was referring to his second wife. He was saying, formerly when I wanted to go home, when I come late, he would tell me, go back to your prostitutes. But now you tell me, when I come home, you say, I know that men have something to talk with their friends. You're welcome. You know, that kind of warmth. I believe that we are losing it all because we are losing the submission concept. The language that a man understands for love is submission. The language that a woman understands for love is sometimes to be talked to, to be appreciated, the kind of thing we talked about, stroking. But the language a man may understand fully about the depth of your love, because if you're not submissive and you talk a lot of words about I love you so much, and the submission is lacking, I think the language of love is lost.
Okay. There's another comment here. This one says, good morning. I believe that having a routine for everyone in the house helps, so that the children can be asleep by 8 p.m. and then the parents can get a chance to have their own time together to strategize on the way forward for the family post-COVID, because this is a blessing in disguise. Ample time to plan for the future. What are your thoughts concerning that?
Well, the only problem with the routines is that in psychology we say human beings are not laboratory chemicals. Where you put X plus Y, you get Z.
You get Z,
All families are different. I've already talked about 8 stages of the family, as noted by a very intelligent lady called Evelyn Duval. It's a lady who discovered that families go through different stages. So we are all in different stages. Well, again, if you say we talk, children sleep at 8 and then we talk, it looks a bit mechanical, because we could talk about it today, but what do we talk tomorrow? Because we have already, after 3 days, we have exhausted that talk. So I think the spontaneous talk is like, let's not be mechanical, but let it be spontaneous. Okay.
I think there are people who work better with routines, and there are others who
that's what we are talking about. Individual differences. We must learn that the families are in different levels. The families, some people don't talk at all, some men, and we know that's a personality trait that we call melancholic. It's a sad person. Nobody offended them, but they don't talk at all. It's melancholy. A personality type was discovered by one of the greatest scholars we call Hippocrates. So some people have that personality trait. 2 of them actually, who we call, we sometimes talk about people who are sanguines, who are very jolly, but we have phlegmatic people who are flat in emotion. And we have the melancholic, sad, and we don't know who offended them. Then we have the choralic, people who are irritable. You say something, they are irritated. You don't know what to talk. It's like walking on nails. You don't know how to comment. So people are so different. My emphasis is that you should learn your man. You should learn your wife. and see what works better for you instead of being mechanical. We can't plant anything on other families, but all I say is that it is good to spend time together. COVID has brought a new dimension of us kind of coming back together, trying to see where we are on our relationship. Are we still the same people? You know, people are shocked that we are different. That's why we are not. We have been assuming we are okay.
Yes.
But now when we come together, we discover we are not.
We are not. Yeah.
We have a lot of problems. So no family is like another. Again, we cannot make life mechanical.
Yeah.
But then there should be some flexibility and learning that we have individual differences.
Okay.
Thank
I know
you.
there's quite a number of people who've lost their jobs in this season.
Yeah.
And one of the things that is true for a lot of men is we attach our identity to our work.
Great.
And so when you don't
Great.
have
That's
work,
psychology.
yes, when you don't have work, you're not sure whether you're going back for a job. It's a very strenuous time because it's almost like you've lost your identity. So for the wives who are in that space right now where their husband has been laid off or their husband has had to shut down their business, how can they help in a season like this so that this man is not irritable all the time because his mind is elsewhere?
What a wonderful question.
Yes.
I always feel for people who don't work. I'm so empathetic about them.
Yes.
Empathy means I'm sometimes sit down and just think about them. I remember in our estate, people coming together to chase some women who sell in the neighborhood. And I was writing and saying, these people are there because they don't have an alternative. They need to feed their children. I didn't win. They still fenced off the plot so that the women would not sell there. But I like being empathetic. You think the other way around. What will happen? What is the other person? How does it look like the other person in that particular situation? So I would say that it's good to be empathetic. And also emphasize here what you have said is excellent. When I teach, I normally see God, of course, is the top on the list. But the second most important thing in life is career. Career is not one-dimensional. It's not just a source of living. It's a social place where you meet friends. It's self-esteem. Normally, when you introduce me, you want me to say something else. I'm a student. I'm a lecturer. I'm a broadcaster. I'm a what? That's what I do. You know, we have it. There's also a sense of esteem, and it's the way we spend time positively.
Yes.
I know you have observed that many times there are many cases that are coming up now. You know, like child abuse.
Yes.
It's because a career helps us to spend time positively. In fact, we spend most of our time at work.
Yes.
And very little time at home.
Yes.
So we should not forget that. In fact, career also makes us healthy. Studies show that people who work live longer. So there is this group that does not work. I feel for them, and may God really help them. May God provide for them, and may God help us who work to be empathetic.
Yes.
To realize that they go through a very hard time. When you don't have a job, it is the source of strife. You fight, as you said, Brother James. You said sometimes you are irritated, you know.
Very easily.
You become irritated. And you're right about that. It's a source of strife. I've seen people killing a child for 20 shillings on the newspapers. Yes, and really it's not 20 shillings. It's the stress that is involved. So they would expect with that joblessness, other things, instabilities in families and all that. If I was to talk to the government, I would say the top priority in any government should be employment for its people. And so I'm worried at this particular time. I'm one of the people who is most worried what will happen now with the loss of jobs.
Of jobs, yes. Wow. Looking at some of SMSs coming in, there's one from Baraza. Baraza is asking, can our guest in the studio please tell us how to handle the teenagers during this tough time at home?
That is interesting, Baraza. Teenagers have been an issue. And you'd be surprised that a great professor called Stanley Hall wrote an encyclopedia in 1904 about adolescents who you are calling teenagers.
Yes.
People have equated teenagers with a new ship that has launched into the ocean, but without a pilot. You know, it's actually we call that period a period in psychology. We call it a period of storm and stress. These themselves are stressed, and it's stormy.
Yes.
I know many parents are having problem trying to tell their teenage to stay at home. They need to go and see their friends and all that.
Yeah.
And they kind of take things so easy, so light, that there is this prophecy that one feels, no, I can't die. Somebody else will die, but not myself.
Yeah.
There is that false image in teenage and adolescence. So you are not alone, Barasa, and you've noted it right. But you need to pray and be flexible. Adolescence is a period of independence. In fact, the former education system was very accurate. We did not have boarding primary schools because it was structured deliberately.
Yeah.
That when a child is looking for independence during teenage or what we call adolescence in psychology, they go to a boarding school where they get that independence to do their own things. But the reverse now is when you take a small child to boarding school, that may not be okay. So we are saying they are looking for independence. We should not lose sight of that, and we should be facilitating that independence. Be very creative. Think about what you're going to do. If they can't sit at all, maybe tell them to keep social distance, tell them to put the mask on, but it doesn't help to fight. Adolescents are stormy, and it is not just to you. It's a period that has been studied since 1904 to date.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very, very true. You know, the other day somebody was saying, you know, allow them to get in touch with their friends.
Yes.
We're having a conversation. And this same question came, and this person was advising and saying, you know what? They're social. They're at a time where their friends are everything to them. You can't just lock them in the house the whole day, day after day after day. They need an avenue. You have to create that avenue for them. I'm looking at my clock and I'm thinking, where has the time gone? Because we are almost out of time. What would you say in closing to the couples who are listening to us today and maybe having challenges in this season?
Maybe the parting shot would be to take you back to the Bible.
Yeah.
I believe, sometimes I listen to some pop songs, forgive me for that, though a Christian. A singer once said, strength of a woman. I still believe that a woman is very powerful in a relationship.
Very true.
A woman can be fix it all. God has given them a lot of power. I remember we went to Uganda the other day with a colleague and we had very nice hotel. And I was saying, I wish I had my family, my wife, not for what you are thinking, Brother James, but to sit and watch this big telly on the wall, sit together and hold her shoulders and watch the telly.
Yes.
It was so boring. I was saying the hotel was so beautiful, double with the 4 pillows, but it's so boring. We have to go out and watch, TV outside to be in a social gathering.
Yeah.
A human being is a social being. We can never stay on our own.
Yes.
That has been established in psychology.
It's not good for man to be alone. Yeah.
So a lady should know that they are very powerful. They are the people who can fix a relationship. They are very powerful. You can't underrate a lady.
Yeah.
A lady can fix a marriage, and that's why all the Bible tends to, even the Proverb 31 woman, just talks about how she can fix a lot of the home. I still believe that she has a very powerful role to play, but at the same time, I'll also implore men also to remember the stroking. When they do nice, help them.
Yes.
And stroke, appreciate what is going on, and at the same time say don't give up on your relationship. These are artificial circumstances. Notice that many of us are stressed and they are not saying. The children are restless, by the way, because they hear COVID and they are not able to understand very well. That's why they become so unruly sometimes. messing all over the house, writing everywhere. So I would actually say, let us communicate openly.
Yes.
A man should say, I don't feel like talking, and the woman should understand that. The lady should say, I'm not happy about this. That we come back to what we said, Brother Okumu.
Yeah.
We talked about communication. Communication is the key.
Yes.
Because if I say, I want to go and rest a bit and I'll lock the bedroom, but understand, I want some peace.
Yeah.
So that communication is very good. When you lock the bedroom without talking, then you have invited trouble.
Yes.
He's not interested in us and my children.
Assumptions begin to come up.
And ladies really also want you to appreciate their children.
Yes.
To be proud of their children, actually, to show you appreciate. Women get turned on when they see fathers running around with their children and interacting very well.
Yes.
They really appreciate that. It's natural. It's an instinct that people are born with.
Wow.
So thank you so much. And these people who say, accidental, please don't break the marriage. You can use that as an excuse. Don't use it as an excuse, but try to fix it.
Yes.
Try to fix the marriage. The fact that you've taken all this time up to now to stay together, you can still go on. You can still go on. Furthermore, we don't have a long life on earth. It's a short life, so we can try to make the best of it.
Great.
Thank you, brother.
Dr. Thank you so much for coming this morning and for sharing with us. We're truly blessed. Keep listening to Family Radio 316, station where the music does the talk.